Right, beta. This is all for you. This is not a birthmark. Your mother and your sister, they are lying to you. But I won't. Everything we told you about Jinn is true. Stay calm, or they will come.
Assalamualaikum everyone. This is Shiva with Dareecha podcast, and our guest today is Badar Tareen, who also happens to be the brother of one of my friends. Badar is a lawyer and a stand-up comic, but because we do horror podcasts, he's making a movie called Inheritance on jinns. Assalamualaikum Badar, how are you?
Assalamualaikum, how are you?
I am well, thank you. So tell me, how does this happen? Lawyer, stand-up comic, making a film about jinns.
Wow, that's good. You sure how long we got for this podcast? We got a few hours.
As long as
No, I've always loved telling stories. Ever
okay.
since I was 5 years old, I loved being on stage and making people laugh. I've always dreamed of making a feature film as a director. In fact, when I used to go back to Pakistan as a kid, my relatives would call me Director Saab.
Oh,
So it's always been something I've wanted to do, but then I also had this passion for civil rights, which is what I do. I'm a civil rights
yeah.
attorney. So I've all these things. I know they sound all different and random, but
Mhm.
honestly, they're all kind of similar in the sense that whether or not you're doing civil rights law or you're doing filmmaking or stand-up comedy, it's all really s- distilling complicated ideas
Mhm.
into something that's interesting and compelling. And it's usually in this form of storytelling. You're telling a story about a disenfranchised community and why their rights, um, how those rights apply under the law, or you're a comedian telling a story about yourself and making it relatable and it's funny, or as a filmmaker, you're telling a story that hopefully is also just so personal that it becomes universal. So I think all those things are kind of interconnected and just
Interconnected.
felt my interest. Yeah.
But it's not just like regular storytelling. You're going into the horror genre. You're making a film about jinns. Why
Every,
that?
I'm gonna tell you something. Every comedian I know loves
Uh-huh.
horror films. It's
Really?
true. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm on my crew. I have, let's see, the main actor, Vic Krishna.
Mhm.
He's a comedian.
Okay.
My director of photography uh,
Mhm.
is Jack Schwartz. He is also a comedian. Stephen Chen, who is also his kind of assistant as the DP and Best Boy. He is a comedian. I'm a comedian. So I have a number of comedians on the cast and crew because I do think there's a common nucleus between horror and comedy, and that they both require a weirdness and a sense of surprise. A joke doesn't work if it
Mhm.
isn't surprising to you to some
Yeah.
extent, and same thing with horror. So I do think there's a lot of similarities and overlap with horror and comedy. But yeah, you're right. Like when we write the script, I mean, I had to push myself to not write jokes. You know, it was hard, but no, I love it. I've always loved horror. I'm fascinated by jinn mythology. I think
Okay.
if you grew up Muslim South Asian, you not heard about those things. So
100%. So what inspired you to make this film? By the way, the YouTube link is right there if you guys want to check out the teaser. It's fantastic. D. So what inspired you to make this film?
what inspired me is a few things. I was hanging out with Vic, the lead actor, who's also helped me write the script and is also producing it with me.
Mhm.
And we were just hanging out. We watched a movie, and I said, "What is your dream? What would you do?" And he goes, "I'd make a feature film." I said, "Me too." And we talked about a few different ideas, and this one just really captured us. And we thought it's such an interesting way to explore. For me, a great film doesn't just tell you what you should think and feel. It asks
Mhm.
questions and kind of
Mhm.
leads you to kind of think it through. So we thought, what a really interesting vehicle, horror, supernatural horror about jinn, which isn't really explored that much in American cinema, which is
Mhm.
bizarre to me. If you think
Uh-huh.
about it, there's only been a few. There was this film called The Jinn and Jinn, stuff like
Yeah.
that, but not many. I
No.
mean, jinn have been around in Islamic folklore for centuries.
Mhm.
And the fact that we've only had a couple of these films. Like, it should be a whole subgenre of jinn. That should
Mhm.
be, and it's not there. And we thought, okay, well, this could be a really interesting way to kind of look at how jinn sort of influenced our own culture,
Mhm.
right? Like, don't go out at night. The jinn will get you. Women,
Mm.
don't wear too much makeup. You're going to attract the jinn.
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
really explore some interesting ideas of generational trauma, grief, and legacy um, within the framework of our culture. So it is a horror film, but honest to God, if you strip away the goal
Mm-hmm.
is if you strip away all the scares and all the horror, it would
Mm-hmm.
still hopefully work as a pretty compelling drama and a story, which I can talk about. Because to me, those are the best horror films.
Okay.
Hereditary, Get Out, The Babadook, all made by first-time directors, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
were all really great horror films that worked as a good drama and a story first.
Okay. So what research did you guys do
Quite a bit.
for this? Yeah.
So first of all, Rabia Chaudhry, she's a
Mm-hmm.
lawyer. She's an interesting person. Has accomplished all sorts of things. She has a podcast called The Hidden Djinn.
Yep.
Read a number of articles, talked to a bunch of different people about their experiences perceiving jinn, reading about jinn, and just growing up South Asian Muslim. I mean, especially Pakistani Muslim, you hear
Mm.
about the jinn stories. It was just fun to kind of talk to my wife and my in-laws and what their experiences were and what the legends they heard, and my parents telling me about uh, certain relatives and their encounter. Everyone's got a jinn encounter story, or
Oh, yes. Every other house in Pakistan has a gin in it. Yep.
so that's what I did. It. I was less about, oh my gosh, I have to do this research. Not so much for it's a documentary that
Mm-hmm.
perfectly explains how jinn is depicted and seen in the Quran or in Islamic teachings, but more just about, on a cultural sense, the
Mm-hmm.
different kinds of stories I've heard and kind of putting it into a story that makes sense and that works for those characters in that story.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the characters?
Yes.
Okay.
So here's what happened. Here's the basic overall
Yes.
overview. The main character, his name is Shah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
His twin brother dies, and then right after his brother dies, his dad disappears, and then a year
Okay.
later, his dad dies too. And when his dad dies, he inherits this cabin and gets a DVD for his eyes only. The main character, Shah,
Mm-hmm.
and the DVD says, "Don't listen to your mother and sister; they're lying to you." And that's what he sees in the disc. And so he inherits his cabin. He's in the cabin with his mom, his sister, and his sister's partner,
Mm-hmm.
and they're in the cabin together. And he's in the video from his dad says, "Spy on your mother and sister. Listen in on them. Listen to what they're saying about you when they think you're not around." And he does. And he starts hearing things that lead him to believe they are hiding something from him. But what?
Okay.
And so he investigates and goes into this descent of madness. And while he does that, he starts having visions and hears things and sees things about jinn and starts questioning his own reality. And the film, it has all that within the vehicle of a drama film, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a resentment in this family. You have the main character Shaw, who hasn't been in touch with his family since their father died and
Mm-hmm.
their brother died. You have a mom who's hiding something from her son. We don't know what. We have a sister who has a same-sex partner that the mom doesn't even know about, and there's that part of her identity. Um, and within all of that, there is something lurking about in that cabin. So it works, hopefully, if done well. It works as a drama, as a
Mm-hmm.
psychological horror, but also as a film that explores bigger issues about, again, generational trauma, grief, legacy, South Asian Muslim identity.
Mm-hmm.
We also try to find some ways to incorporate our culture into the film, but not like hitting you over the head with
Mm-hmm.
masala, so to speak. Like we throw in some Qawwali music that fits within the story.
Okay.
The main character, his dad was really into Qawwali music, so he starts playing it on the piano. We have Urdu poetry where I wrote
Mm-hmm.
some poems, and then I got an Urdu poet to help me translate and write properly in Urdu, because there's like a different rhythm they do in
Mm-hmm.
poetry. We use that in the film. So I really want this to be a film that's something you've never seen before, something interesting, a point of view that's rarely seen, but something that will also terrify you.
Okay. It did terrify me because I saw the hands of the jinn tapping
Yeah.
on I think Shah's. So have you watched The Omen?
Yeah. The
The
movie, The
first,
Omen.
yes, the
Yeah.
first part. So the reason I'm asking is because this teaser starts out saying, Shahid, this is all for you. And
Nice.
in
Good job.
Omen, and in
You got it.
Omen, yes, was
That
that
was that was a
there's
nod. 100% nod to the
ah
Omen. Very good. You were the first person to catch that. It's
really
subtle. I mean, we use that line also because it works for the story and for the character. Like it is all for you.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
yes, yeah, that was a nod. We did a little subtle. I love throwing little subtle nods to
mhm.
other films that I really love, and The Omen is one of them that inspired me.
Brilliant,
But yeah,
yes.
nice
Yeah.
catch. Very
I've
good.
only seen it about 100 times, so
But
yeah.
not most people don't catch that. So
Mm,
there's
okay.
almost nothing else from The Omen, but other than that line. But yeah, I love
Yeah.
that line.
So what techniques, what VFX are you guys using to create these gens?
It's pretty practical.
Okay.
Part of it is I don't like the look of CGI generally, unless you
Mhm.
have like a lot of money, which we don't. And two, it just came down to practicality. We just had to
Okay.
find some ways in which we do it. I don't want to give too much away what the gin, but we
Mhm.
have actors.
Okay.
We have some really good makeup VFX artists. And we do some pretty standard editing techniques that will look really cool on camera.
Mhm.
But once you like look into it, you'll find, oh, okay, that's not I didn't need $3 million to do it.
Okay. So how much of the film is already done? At 50%?
Yep, about
Okay.
half of the film is shot,
Okay.
and then we need to shoot the other half, and that's what the fundraising campaign is for, is to
Ah, okay.
finish shooting.
So when do you expect it to come out?
Great question. We hope to have it out hopefully by next year sometime. We have to finish shooting it, which will probably take another 2 more weeks, I'd say,
Mhm.
because we've gotten more efficient and we've shot all basic most pretty much all the outside scenes, all the other so basically most of the film is now just in one interior location. So it's just more
Okay.
efficient to shoot. So hopefully in a couple weeks.
Okay. So during shooting, because I've heard everybody who's ever done a horror film, drama, anything, they're always saying, "Okay, something happened on the set. This happened or that happened." Anything with you guys?
I mean, without getting too many details, some people lost some loved ones, not on set, but
Okay.
separately. I don't want to get too many
Yeah.
details.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I will say this: every time we wanted to shoot an outside scene, it would just pouring rain. It would pour, and we just can't. The way that the lighting is for those scenes and what I wanted to show, we just couldn't shoot it. So we got hit light with rain, lightning. We got hit when as soon as we got to the house, the cabin where
Mm-hmm.
we're shooting it, all the power went out immediately, which like never happens.
Mm-hmm.
We had a wedding party happen during right outside the cabin, which was supposed to be like a fairly desolate area.
Uh-huh.
And we were going to shoot that afternoon, and then someone had a big wedding celebration. Right, we were going to do it. So there weren't all kinds of obstacles like that, or someone's sick and things like that. But I
Mm-hmm.
would say the power coming out and a tree falling down the day we got there was pretty wild. And then I mean the other stuff with people's personal life too.
Someone does not
Not as
want you to
bad as The
make this movie.
Exorcist. Yeah, yeah, not as bad as The Exorcist. I mean, I'm sure you've read about what happened with them. All these people died, and
Oh,
said things came on fire, and nothing like that.
yeah.
Uh, Maybe the Gen are waiting until we finish to get some more Gen scenes. We've shot some, but
Yeah. Any inspiration from movies like The Conjuring or The Exorcist or any of these?
yeah. So in terms of the feel and
Uh-huh.
aesthetic of it,
Mhm.
Alfred Hitchcock is kind of one of my heroes. My dad and I, we used to watch those films together when I was a kid. It was my first time getting into horror films actually.
Mhm.
And there was no Netflix. So my dad and I would have to
Mm.
go to a local public library and then order from a university 3 hours away to get us the VHS tapes or DVDs. So Hitchcock, in terms of camera movement and hopefully the feel of suspense, in terms of the mood and vibe, I mean, The Shining is the Stanley Kubrick version is one of my favorite
Mhm.
films in terms of how it makes you feel. But I would say in terms of like writing and storytelling, I really wanted to focus on Ari Aster's Hereditary,
Yeah.
Jennifer Kent's The Babadook, and Jordan Peele's Get Out. And the reason why I picked those three films is all those directors, they made those films as a feature film directorial debut. It was their first time, just like I'm
Oh.
doing. So that's like the high watermark for me.
Mhm.
Is those aren't even just great like first timers. They're just great films in general. Like I'd put those up against any modern horror classic. And then two, again, those films, every single one of them was trying to analyze something deeper. Get Out was
Mhm.
about racial issues and international
Mhm.
relationships and that whole thing. Hereditary is about grief and maybe survivor's guilt, and uh, Babadook is about parenthood and also loss of someone in your life. So I wanted to do something deeper like that with characters that are well rounded, and then the horror comes naturally to the story rather than we need a jump scare every 10 pages of the script.
Okay. So making just a regular movie is hard enough, right? But you're making a
Yeah.
horror movie. What challenges did you guys go through, like technically, or what's scenically? What?
It's a good question. I mean, the funny thing is that I mean, every film has its own kinds of challenges. I think
Mhm,
comedies are incredibly hard because A, there's less of a market for them these days, but
mhm,
then B, comedies rarely age very well. I haven't seen many comedies that were made like 40 years ago that I still think are really funny, you know? But horror films age like fine wine. Not
mhm.
that I drink, but they age well. Like you could watch The
We're not
Exorcist
judging. Yeah,
and but you can watch The Exorcist and it still holds up. It's still pretty close to
100%.
perfect. The
Mhm,
Shining was made before I was even born,
mhm,
and that is a masterpiece. So I think that in some ways, if you get it right, it lasts. But the challenges in terms of putting horror onto film, I'm trying to think. One of the big challenges is lighting.
mhm,
Okay, we will when I'm done with this call. Okay, buddy. So I think one of the big things is that with film is that horror films you have to shoot a lot of things at night.
mm,
So you're gonna have to have night shoots. So you have
mhm,
to start shooting around like 9 or 10 o'clock and you go until
mhm,
sunrise. That's a big challenge because the cast and crew are tired, especially the actors, right? Because they're the
mhm,
ones that have to be on.
mhm,
And then the director of photography and the gaffers are really tired because they have to set up before the actors get there, do the shooting, and then tear down. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest challenges is achieving that the lighting and getting things done at nighttime. But in terms of yeah, I mean, I'm not doing a traditional horror film where there's like tons of blood and
mhm.
severed heads and things like that. I'm trying to keep this more understated,
Understood.
and I
Okay.
focus more on the story. And I focus more on the story and the characters more than I care about. I mean, there's going to be some scares, but it's the scares for me are secondary. It's more about the story.
Okay. Um, so there's actually a Pakistani drama out right now named Jin Ki Shadi Unki Shadi. So it's
I've heard
it's
of it. My
a
mom told me about it.
yeah, it is really good, and the VFX and lighting, that's it. VFX and lighting is really good. It's actually better than The Conjurings because
Oh
lighting
wow,
is yes, yes. Because I've seen both, especially the latest one that came out or the final one. So lighting is very important for horror films.
yeah, very important. It's critical,
Yeah.
and it's also yeah. And the other thing is also this is something the director of photography Jack was always telling me. He goes, you don't actually have to light the dark that much. Like if you watch a
Mm-hmm,
lot of horror films and it's very underlit and you can't see, he goes,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
that's normal because that's how it is when you're in the dark, and that creates a sense of tension and suspense,
mm-hmm,
and it's acceptable. I just
mm-hmm,
watched this film not that long ago, Weapons. It's where the kids, are running around in theaters recently. That was a recent film. It's good. There's a scene where they're walking around in the dark in the house, and it's fine. No one left the theater saying that wasn't lit well enough. So it's also kind of thinking through about like what does it even mean to have sufficient lighting, and it's an okay to get away with being a little underlit in certain night scenes.
mm-hmm.
And I think you can.
Okay. The film is called Inheritance, right?
Mhm.
What are you expecting from people when they watch this film? Like, what are you trying to tell them?
I think well, first of all, the number one thing, and I can curse on this thing, right?
Hmm.
The number one thing I want people to leave with is I just want them to say themselves. So that's all I really want. That would be thrilling. That's what I want is to have that feeling. I want to take you on an emotional feeling, but I want the people to start asking questions about what does it mean to be, what does legacy mean? What
Okay.
is it something that your parents pass on, or is it something that the children move carrying forward? That's kind of what I would say in the
Hmm.
teaser. Is what does it mean to is generational trauma like a never-ending cycle, or is there a way to break it? And what are the consequences of breaking it? And what does it mean to be a good family member? And how much should you be willing to sacrifice? And how much should you be selfish for your own
Hmm.
pursuits? And I want people to kind of ask those questions. And it'd be awesome if people left even kind of debating, like, I don't agree with what the character did, or no, I do agree, and have a
Hmm.
conversation, or what do you think that really meant? Like, I love people leaving a film with those questions rather than
Hmm.
me giving them the answers. I want to give them work because that's something you can take with you.
Okay. So do you have any like Islamic concepts in the movie? Like, there's a surah jinn in the Quran, there's Ayatul Kursi for, when you think something is happening and this and that. Is there any of that stuff in there, or we're keeping
It's in
religion
the
out of it?
subtext.
Okay.
No, I mean there's a little subtext in there. So the mom
Okay.
says some prayers a
Okay.
few times, and that comes up. I think just more general concepts about what happens when you die, and jinn,
Hmm.
and believing in it, and uh, having some kind of submission to God. But those are all kind of subtle and in
Hmm.
the background. Like you could watch that film,
Hmm.
and if you didn't know anything about Islam, you could still really enjoy it and not
Watched. Okay.
even. and some of those things might go over your head, but for the people who kind of know, kind of like in Get Out, like I bet there are a lot of people who would watch that film and enjoy it, but if you're not maybe from that community that's
Mm-hmm.
represented, like there's a lot of people in the Black community who might have watched it who they might get certain subtleties that maybe a lot of people who aren't Black or maybe people who are white
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't get, but they still enjoyed it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's kind of hopefully something along those lines where for people who really are in the know of our culture and our religion, there might be certain nuances that they're going to pick up. You know, it could be little things, and this is more
Mm-hmm.
cultural than religious, but even, you know, he calls his son Beta. We're not going to
Mm-hmm.
explain what Beta means.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, we're just gonna go with it,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Have you personally experienced any supernatural?
Um, there are a couple times where, and this is one of those things where you could just explain away that I was having a nightmare, or you could explain that I was just having nerves. But yes, there have been a few moments in my life where I definitely felt a presence in a way that I haven't felt before. Where it's so funny. My sister asked me about it. You know, she would tease me about this. That was one night where I didn't want to sleep in my bedroom because I just felt a presence. I felt basically, I don't think it was a dream, but I
Mm-hmm.
saw these three men who were all white, pale white, black hoods, and they were like their toes were like 6 inches off the ground, and they were coming towards the bed and they were looking down at me and they said like look at me or something. And that's why you would like roll her eyes and be like, oh bother or whatever. But then that night my mom would come into the room and like say Muslim prayers and
Mm-hmm.
my sister would do the same thing and she'd be asking me like, oh, is it better now? So like I had a couple experiences like that, but nothing I could definitively say, "Oh, yes, this is definitely Jin." Like, it always happens when you're half awake, half asleep, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
What was
yeah.
the other
But I've had
experience? Because
experiences.
this is a horror podcast, so what was your other experience?
No, yeah.
No?
That was a big one. No, that was a big one. I'm trying to think what else. I guess just moment. It's not even a particular like aha moment, but there's just moments where sometimes you feel like I'm really not alone right now. There's somebody here with me, or I feel like I'm being watched, and it's not just my nerves. I'm 43 years old. I'm married with two kids. I'm not afraid of the dark anymore. Like there's something looking at me. Uh, so I've had plenty of moments like that, or
Mm-hmm.
dreams that were so vivid, and then what would happen, what I dreamt about would happen.
Okay.
So I'd have moments like that as well, like
Mm-hmm.
deja vu, I guess they call it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never had anything to the level of what you're going to see in this film.
Oh,
Nothing
okay.
that crazy.
Nothing that crazy. What does your family have to say about this? Like, were they on
Oh,
board from the beginning, or were they like, no, why are you doing this? Especially your mom, because mothers
yeah.
have a tendency to, why are you getting into
They
this?
could, you know, they could not be more supportive. It's actually
Really?
quite amazing how
Okay.
wonderful they are. I mean, they all contributed to the film campaign generously, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But no, like they've all saw the trailer. I made my mom and dad watch the teaser and I recorded their
Mm-hmm.
reaction. And when my mom said that this is really good, I'm impressed. I'm proud of you. Like that means something because they don't just throw those
No,
compliments out for nothing, right?
no. Desi
So
parents do not.
the fact that they don't, and so the fact that my mom liked it and my dad thought it was cool and my siblings like were supportive of it is
Mm-hmm.
it's awesome. Like I'm so lucky because I know that's not necessarily the case for every South Asian
Mm-hmm.
Muslim person going into the arts, but I've always been into that stuff and my parents are
Mm-hmm.
actually pretty good about that stuff. Like growing up, they made me take music lessons and I became like pretty good at all my siblings did. And I was a music
Mm-hmm.
performance scholar in college. I toured with the orchestra. I did acting. I've done stand up as
Mm-hmm.
soon as I got into my 30s. And so they were always supportive. My parents, I opened for this comedian, Bassem Youssef, once, and
Mm,
my mom and dad,
really?
my mom, yeah, and my I
Okay.
featured for opened or hosted or something, and my mom and dad went, and my siblings came too, and they watched me perform. You know, my parents have seen me perform stand up a few times, which is pretty cool. My siblings have, and even they were like, even like my brother never gives me compliments, but the fact that he like after the Boston show was like, you know, like that's like a standing ovation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
but no, they're great. They're great.
I got it.
They're really great.
How did you get into horror though? Like, what's your favorite horror movie or the reason for why you love the genre so much?
Yeah, I love roller coasters. I love being scared. I love the anticipation. I told you earlier that a friend of mine recommended me this movie Psycho, and he goes, "Brother,
Uh-huh.
you got to watch this." But I was in seventh, eighth grade. I'm like, it's in black and white. I don't even know. And then I watched it, and I fell in love with that film because it works on so
Okay.
many levels. In that, I don't know if you've seen it, but what's interesting about Psycho is it's one
Mm-hmm.
of the original slasher films. I don't think it was the first one, but it was one of the earlier ones by Alfred Hitchcock. And what's great about it is, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but there's a main character in the film who was at the time a big movie star. It's Jamie Lee
Mm-hmm.
Curtis's mom, Janet Lee. And she's in the film and she freaking dies in the first act. Like the whole film is through her perspective. She's the main character and she dies. I had never seen someone take that big of a risk. And it has one of the best horror film performances. Anthony Perkins is Norman Bates. I'd put that
Mm-hmm.
up there with Anthony Hopkins, Hannibal Lecter, Heath Ledger, the Joker, Anton Chigurh by Javier Bardem. Like it's one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
And it has one of the most iconic killing scenes of all time, the shower scene. And it has that crazy twist ending that I didn't see coming. And I was, even for an eighth grader, relatively sophisticated at like guessing what the ending would be. And so when I saw that film, I was hooked. I'm like, what is
Okay.
this? And so that's when my dad and I started watching Hitchcock films. He did some other kind of suspenseful, scary films. And then I just went out to my sister and I would watch The X-Files.
I love that
I
show.
would watch, I love that show. And Ryan Coogler's bringing it back, which is so cool.
Really?
Uh, and yeah, Ryan Coogler wants to do The X-Files, which to me, like, that guy can do no wrong. I mean, it's almost like he might be too good for that. I mean, I don't know, but like, I'll
Yeah.
watch it. He's got my money. He's one of the few directors where if he makes the movie, I'm just gonna buy it. I don't even know what he's gonna make. I'll buy the ticket. It's like him and Christopher Nolan. Like, I don't care what you're doing. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
see it. Uh, but the X Files, Halloween. I mean, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can go on. Like, I have a list. I mean, more recently, I loved It Follows. But yeah, I love horror. I love horror films that challenge you, make you think, and just surprise you.
Surprise you, yeah. So a lot of people have a concept that jinns are ghosts. It's not.
They're a little more
Mm,
than that. Yeah.
right. What are your thoughts on that? How do you tell people, okay, this is how it differentiates?
Yeah. So they're not so much ghosts as they've been believed, that they're actually like
Mm-hmm.
their own race of beings. Like the belief is
Mm-hmm.
that God created humans,
Mm-hmm.
angels, and jinn. And the jinn are sort of in between and have like their own sort of realm that they live under. And some jinn are good, some jinn are not good, some jinn are
Mm-hmm.
Muslim, some jinn don't follow Islam, some jinn are working in coercion with the devil, and sometimes you can see the jinn, and sometimes you can. They kind of let you see them. They can change their appearance in multiple ways. Some
Mm-hmm.
legends show that maybe, excuse me, the one thing jinn can't change is like their feet are backwards. That's something that they can't change. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one report. I mean, not necessarily it's true, but no, they're much more complex mythology, and there's bunch of writings on it. Was 1,001 Nights had the story, the famous genie story,
Mm-hmm.
with the fishermen. But no, they're much more than just ghosts.
Yeah.
And there've been all kinds of jinn stories, like jinns who would procreate with humans and would
Mm-hmm.
stalk you at night and fall in love with you. And when I
Mm-hmm.
saw that for my research, I mean, I didn't even know that part. All I really knew is that it was just one of those things that your parents told you about to try to get you to do things. Don't do this or the jinn will get you, or don't brag too much. It's gonna, nuzzle and then jinn will mess with you, like stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
when I looked more into it, I thought, oh, this is really interesting.
Do you believe any of that stuff? Like, Maghrib ke don't go out after Maghrib or these things like that we have.
I'll put it this way. I don't know if I'm a full true believer
Mm-hmm.
of everything jinn, but I do fear them, if that makes
Okay.
sense. So if I'm out at night and I'm by myself and I hear a rustling of the wind,
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid it could be a jinn. But when I'm safe at home with my family, I'm not thinking, oh yeah, there's definitely jinn here, right?
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily believe them, but I fear them.
You fear them. Okay. How long did research take you?
It took a little bit. I was
Yeah.
doing it while we were writing, so
Okay.
I didn't just sit down and just like read a bunch of. I mean, I did read a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
materials, but I did some reading beforehand. But then the film just kind of evolved into it, and we had so many drafts. I mean, the original draft for this one is nothing at all similar.
Okay.
So I was doing research as I was writing it with Vic, and the research I did again was talking to various people, reading all these different articles, listening to that podcast, and just my own experiences, because
Mm-hmm.
the film does incorporate jinn, but it's not a jinn documentary.
Yeah.
It's really just more about how does this fit within the story. And so that's where my partner in this film, Vic Krishna, was so great, is because he, as the writer, is also an actor. He's the star of the film. So he kept when we were writing, he kept saying, "What's the character's motivation for this? Why are they doing this?
Mm-hmm.
What's the logic of this? How does this
Mm-hmm.
fit within the logic of the story?" And so he would keep asking me those questions while we were writing it, and that helped me so much when we were writing it to hopefully this is a place where this makes sense and the jinn mythology fits hopefully well.
Is there any black magic involved in this movie?
Black magic. What do you mean by that?
Uh, have you heard of like kala jadoo, black magic that's done through jinns? There are people out there that actually do like kala jadoo on other people through jinns.
Yeah, can you define the words you're just saying? They
Yeah,
do magic through jinns?
yeah. So black magic is in Islam, it's when some people try to ruin your life and they use like state jinns to do that. Like if you've heard of like
Oh,
voodoo
okay, yeah,
dolls. Yeah.
yeah, oh, yeah. Not that
Okay.
quite thing, but there is supernatural activity, but not that specific thing. Um, I don't want to give away the story, but but there is foul play from the jinn,
Mm,
and there is uh people involved in doing it. But I don't want to give much more away than that. But I wouldn't call
okay.
it black magic necessarily. It's a little different.
Do you believe in black magic?
Mm, maybe less so. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm more agnostic on it. I'm not going to
Hmm.
say it's impossible, but I'm not convinced.
Fair enough.
Okay,
Um,
it's like do I think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself? Probably not, but possibly.
Possibly.
That's how I would put it.
Okay.
Probably not. You probably like 95% didn't do it, but
Hmm.
maybe. You never
Maybe
know.
it did. Okay.
Yeah.
What message do you want to give the audience when this uploads and people are watching it? What do you want to tell them?
Um, Go easy on your parents. When you're sifting through your generational trauma, because while it does exist and their parents are human beings, yet try to
Hmm.
humanize them and realize that whatever you might be blaming them for, or whatever difficulty you went through as a result of their choices, they're people, and they did oftentimes the best they could with what they had. That's a big one. But the film isn't just for South Asians or just for Muslims,
Hmm.
it's really for everybody.
Yep.
So I really hope that people who watch it are just kind of more like, oh wow, this is an interesting world. And oh wow, these are just really well developed characters in a story about family obligation and legacy and generational trauma, and how this affects the family. And
Hmm.
hopefully by being so specific to that family, it'll feel more universal to
Okay.
everybody. And I think at times right now we live in a time when having empathy for different kinds of points of view is more crucial than ever.
Hmm.
And so I think I hope that does something in that regard.
You mentioned generational trauma a lot. Do you think, especially in the Desi community, that it will somehow end, maybe not our generation, but the generation like Gen Z, maybe they'll end it? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the nature of the generational trauma, where it
Hmm.
came from. If it came from being an immigrant and the things that were suffered while in motherland, or once you got here, there's trauma
Hmm.
from that, right? How difficult it is. My wife's an immigrant, and she's
Hmm.
talked about how she came here, she was 9. I mean, she's fine now. She's happy and she's thankful and loves her family and everything. But it was challenging as a 9-year-old coming here and not speaking the language very well. You're dressed funny. Your food smells funny.
Hmm.
No one wants to sit and talk to you. That's a form of trauma, right? Um, but yeah, I do think there's going to come a point that whatever trauma that your parents or you are facing, 2 or 3 generations down the road, it's going to be such a different society. It's going to
Hmm.
be a different culture, and their lives are going to be so different. I mean, look at my life.
Hmm.
Look at my son's life compared to how my life is, right? You can't even
Hmm.
compare. I grew up in the 80s and 90s in rural North Dakota, like a town of 1,500 people. I rode my
Wow.
bike to places before I had a car. Um, I worked at the Cavalier swimming pool in the summers. I mean, we had computers and dial-up internet, but we didn't have smartphones. We didn't even have
Mm-mm.
Netflix. And Netflix came
Mm.
right when I was starting college, and those are the DVDs you got in the mail.
Yeah.
My son, comparatively, who's almost 5, he has his own iPad that he has limited screen time with, not
Hmm.
as much as I should limit. He has access to so much more information. He's in a completely different society. LGBT issues are not nearly as controversial as they were when I was a kid. Like, if a kid was in junior high gay, that was like a really bad thing.
Hmm.
And I'm sure there still is homophobia, which is not cool. But like my niece and nephew who are in their 20s, they had gay classmates, and it was totally cool. Like, it was way more acceptable than it was
Uh-huh.
back in the 80s and 90s. So I think that, yeah, in answer to your question, I do think that whatever generational trauma you have will eventually peter out, depending on the
Mhm.
family dynamics, but then there'll be a new generational trauma. There'll be a new thing,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Those are all the questions I have for you, Mother. Is there
Okay.
anything that you want to say more about the film or just
Um,
generally?
yeah, just that it is a blast being a director and writer and producer. This is a dream of mine. I've wanted to make my own feature film for a very long time. I'm very proud of the work that everyone is doing in the cast and crew. It's a tremendous team, and I'm just touched that they all believe in me and Vic
Mhm.
to make this happen. And I hope people see the teaser, and if they like what they see and they want us to finish, this is your chance to vote for it. You know, we watch a lot of content these days, which might seem familiar, might not seem original, or, oh, I wish I got to see these kind of voices more. This is what we're trying to do, and this is your
Yeah.
chance to support it. So, hope people consider supporting the crowdfund and checking out the movie.
Yes. Yep.
This is my
That's
son.
it. Hey, what's your name?
He's got headphones on, thankfully. What's your name?
Okay. Zayan?
He's Zayon.
Zayan. Okay.
Hmm.
Does he know that his father is making a movie on Jen's?
He's been on the set.
Really?
Had him visit the set. Yep. And he once in a while he'll see something scary like Scooby Doo, and he's like, "Daddy, put that in your scary movie." And I'm like,
Mm.
"No, son, there's intellectual property. Can't do that." No.
You're a
He's
lawyer.
no,
Come up with
he
something.
knows.
He knows.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So this is coming out hopefully in 2026. Is it going to be released
That's the
like
hope.
domestically, internationally? What are you
We'll
guys
figure that
thinking?
out. We don't have a
Okay.
distribution deal. We don't have a distribution deal yet, but yeah, the
Okay.
goal is to, of course, submit it to festivals and take it from there. And
Go.
I'll release it locally if necessary and see what happens.
I hope you do because my hook was that line, Shahid, this is all for you. So
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for
I
catching
hope.
that.
Like I said, I've watched The Omen maybe more than 100 times. I made my brother and cousins watch it when they were 8 years old. So I have everything in Omen memorized. But thank you, Badar, for giving us the time. Everyone, you're gonna see the link on here. Please go watch the teaser. Follow him on Instagram, and please help what you can with crowdfunding. And subscribe to the Dareecha podcast, please. Thank you so much, Badar.